Leech Collector. In the 19th century, leech collecting was a real and surprisingly common job across Europe. Leeches were in high demand for medical treatments, as bloodletting was believed to cure everything from fevers to infections. Professional leech collectors, often women and children, would wade into muddy swamps, ponds, or marshes barefoot, allowing the bloodsuckers to latch onto their legs. Once enough leeches were attached, they'd peel them off and store them in containers to be sold to doctors or apothecaries. Despite being a risky job, it was considered a respectable rural profession because of its contribution to medicine. However, it was far from glamorous. Collectors often suffered from infections, excessive blood loss, and even fainting due to too many leeches draining them. Historical medical records from Britain and France document how this trade was essential to 19th century healthcare, with millions of leeches being imported or locally harvested. By the late 1800s, the practice declined as medical science moved beyond bloodletting. Whipping boy. During the Tudor and Stuart eras in England, the role of a whipping boy was a bizarre yet real position, though it was rare and reserved for the highest ranks of nobility. Princes and other royal children were considered too sacred to be physically punished. Instead, another boy, usually from a noble but lower-ranked family, was assigned to be punished in their place. The logic was that witnessing a friend suffer would emotionally impact the royal child enough to discourage misbehavior. The whipping boy often grew up alongside the prince, sharing lessons and playtime, which sometimes led to close friendships. However, this job came with an unusual mix of privilege and pain. While the boy lived in the royal household and received an education, he would bear the punishments meant for the future king. Royal household records confirm its existence, with famous examples like William Murray, who served as whipping boy for King Charles I. Though not widespread, the concept highlights the extreme social hierarchies and peculiar customs of England's past. Knocker up. Before alarm clocks became cheap and widespread, people in 19th and early 20th century England relied on knocker-ups to wake them for work. These human alarm clocks were paid to ensure workers, especially factory employees, didn't oversleep during the Industrial Revolution. A knocker-up would arrive early in the morning using long bamboo poles or canes to tap on upstairs windows until the client responded. In some cases, they used pea shooters to hit windows with small pellets, ensuring they could wake even the heaviest sleepers. The job required incredible punctuality and often meant working during the coldest, darkest hours of the morning. Some knocker-ups were elderly men or women, while others were night shift workers making extra income. This profession remained common until affordable alarm clocks rendered it obsolete in the early 20th century. Sin Eater. The role of a sin eater was a grim and eerie profession that existed in rural England and Wales during the 17th and 18th centuries. A sin eater, often a poor, outcast man, was paid to sit beside the corpse and consume bread and ale that had been placed on or near the body. By eating the food, he was believed to absorb the deceased's sins, allowing the soul to enter the afterlife cleansed. While this ritual provided comfort to grieving families, the sin eater himself was often shunned by society. People feared he carried the spiritual burden of countless sins, making him both necessary and despised. As Christianity evolved and church doctrines took precedence, the custom of sin-eating faded into obscurity. Full-time Lector. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, cigar factories, especially in Cuba and parts of the United States, employed a lector, or reader, to entertain and educate workers as they rolled cigars. The job involved reading aloud newspapers, novels, and political essays throughout the day, keeping the workers mentally engaged during the repetitive and time-consuming process of cigar making. This tradition was highly valued, as many workers were immigrants or from working-class backgrounds with limited access to formal education. The lector's readings not only provided entertainment, but also sparked discussions on politics, culture, and current events, often influencing the workers' social and political views. Cuban labor history archives show that lectors were so important that workers would pool their own money to pay them, rather than having factory owners cover the cost. While the rise of radio and other modern entertainment eventually made the role obsolete, the lector remains a celebrated symbol of worker solidarity and intellectual culture in cigar-making communities. Groom of the Stool. The Groom of the Stool was one of the most unusual yet prestigious roles in the English royal court during the Tudor era. Despite its unglamorous nature, assisting the king with his bathroom needs, this position held immense power and influence. The groom's duties included managing the royal chamber pot, ensuring cleanliness, and even helping the king with personal hygiene. While the task might sound degrading, it was actually a position of great trust. The groom had intimate access to the monarch and was often privy to private conversations, royal secrets, and important political matters. Because of this closeness, many grooms of the stool became trusted advisors, wielding more influence than many high-ranking courtiers. Resurrectionist. In the 18th and 19th centuries, the demand for human cadavers in medical schools far outstripped the legal supply, leading to the rise of resurrectionists, professional grave robbers who exhumed bodies and sold them to anatomists. These individuals would dig up freshly buried corpses under the cover of night, often working in teams to avoid detection. Medical students and surgeons relied on them for dissection and study, as few bodies were legally available due to strict laws surrounding human remains. The trade became so profitable that it occasionally escalated to outright murder, the most infamous case being Burke and Hare in Scotland. Instead of waiting for deaths, the pair killed at least 16 people and sold their bodies to a medical school in Edinburgh, sparking public outrage. British medical history archives detail how this gruesome practice led to the 1832 Anatomy Act, which legalized the donation of unclaimed bodies for medical research, effectively ending the need for resurrectionists. Pinsetter. Before the invention of automatic pinsetting machines in the 1940s, bowling alleys relied on human pinsetters, often teenage boys, to manually reset the pins after each frame. Their job involved quickly clearing fallen pins, placing the 10 pins back into position, and returning the bowling balls to players. Pinsetters had to move fast, as delays would frustrate bowlers, and they often worked long hours for low pay. The job was physically demanding and sometimes dangerous. Standing at the end of the bowling lane while players were ready to roll meant the risk of being hit by stray balls or flying pins. Despite the hazards, it was a common part-time job for teens in the early 20th century, providing extra cash for working-class families. Photos and advertisements from that era show rows of young pinsetters crouched behind lanes waiting for the next ball. The introduction of automatic pinsetters revolutionized the sport, making these human workers obsolete. Still, the pinsetter remains a quirky reminder of how even leisure activities once depended on manual labor. Dog whipper. In medieval and early modern Europe, churches often employed a dog whipper, a person tasked with removing stray dogs and occasionally unruly people from church services. During this period, it wasn't uncommon for dogs to wander into churches, especially in rural areas where they followed their owners or roamed freely. The dog whipper carried a long whip or wooden tongs to chase the animals out without disrupting the service. The position wasn't purely about controlling dogs. Sometimes the dog whipper was also responsible for maintaining order among the congregation. Parish records and surviving dog whips displayed in museums confirm the existence of this unusual role. While it might sound trivial today, it was considered an important job to ensure the solemnity and decorum of religious gatherings.